FM. Kenn Marshall is on the line with us, State System of Higher Education spokesman. You hear that voice that says we're the voice of Indiana County. Does it make you feel all warm inside, Kenn?
It sure does. I'm a resident I was born in Indiana County, grew up in Indiana County, so it's still home.
And you're an IUP grad, and that's a good place to start. IUP is ready to begin the academic year, and all of the other schools in the state system are as well. And I assume that means a very, very busy time there in Harrisburg at the state system offices.
Yes, it is. This is move-in week across the system at all of our campuses, and we're getting ready for someone to move in here. Our new chancellor, Dr. Daniel Greenstein, will be starting actually on September 4th. So we're getting ready for his arrival, and obviously working with all the campuses as they gear up to start the new academic year.
Well, that's one of the things I wanted to talk about with Dr. Greenstein when he comes in. Now, he has a very extensive background in education, but he comes from an unusual location, I guess, or from an unusual most recent posting with the Gates Foundation, and he brings a different type of experience to the state system, and I guess it's a pretty apropos thing when you're doing the state system overhaul right now.
Yeah, I think it's very important that we have someone who is an innovator, someone who has some big ideas. Obviously, he has a national reputation in higher education, having been at run the education programs at the Gates Foundation for the last 6 years. Prior to that, he was a top administrator at the University of California system. He started his academic career, I guess, as a faculty member, so he's done a little bit of everything. But he's known as very much as an innovator, as a change agent. Being that we're involved in the system redesign right now, where we're looking at creating a top tier university system for the future. I think he's an ideal person to come in and lead that effort.
Would I be correct to assume that there's been a lot of communication in preparation for his arrival, which is coming up here in just a few days?
Yes, it certainly has. And also, we're already gearing up for a 14-campus tour. Dr. Greenstein wants to visit each of the campuses very quickly in the first couple of months. He's going to find out, or actually he's already familiar with Pennsylvania because he went to college here. But he's certainly going to find out again how big a state Pennsylvania really is. I think I'm going to be accompanying him on most of those visits, so I'm going to get another tour of Pennsylvania. I've been around the state several times in my 20+ years with the state system, but I'm going to get to see all the campuses again, which I'm really looking forward to.
I bet you, and IUP's pretty early on that schedule, isn't it?
It's in I think in mid-October.
Yeah.
The visits themselves won't really be starting until after he's been here a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I think the first visit is September 18th, but they're in pretty rapid succession after that.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about the redesign of the state system of higher education. This has been an ongoing process, and we've been able to follow along the steps. Where does that process stand right now?
Well, some of the easier steps, if you will, have been taken. One of the most visible changes is the speeding up the process of which our universities can develop new academic programs, from moving from concept when a faculty member comes up with an idea, proposes a new program, until it is actually offered to students in the classroom. We've streamlined that process significantly while still making sure that the programs undergo very rigorous review. Since January, our universities have gotten approval for a combined 29 new academic programs, all in very high demand areas. Universities do market studies. They work with employers in their regions to develop those programs. That's probably the most visible change. We've did some other things to eliminate some burdensome regulations that kind of hamstring the universities, so that they can be more flexible, move more quickly. Now the real heavy lifting starts. The Board of Governors is looking at new tuition policies, new pricing policies, and certainly Dr. Greenstein will have a whole host of other ideas once he gets on board. So it's going to be a lengthy process. It's not something that can happen overnight, but certainly we've made some very significant progress since we had the review of the system done about a year ago.
We are talking with Kenn Marshall from the State System of Higher Education this morning. Just down the road a piece from where you are under the Capitol Dome this summer, and a little bit earlier in the year, a legislative report came through. Another study was conducted, and they had some pretty earth-shattering recommendations for moving forward with the state system, not exactly in line with the redesign that you folks are undertaking. Has the ground sort of settled since that time, and folks are getting a look at what they're doing and what they're talking about and reacting to it?
Yeah, I think so. Actually, the study that the legislature had done, the interesting thing, I think, was a lot of the findings of that study pretty much mirrored the study that we had done. The difference was the recommendations. Where do we go with the state system in the future? Obviously, they had a range of recommendations that went from something similar to what we're doing to basically tearing the system apart and letting the schools operate independently, or assigning the schools to the state-related universities. Those are obviously would be very drastic steps. We don't think they would be and actually they could be more harmful to students than helpful. I think one of the things that the report acknowledges is if our universities, which are the lowest cost, most affordable four-year institutions in the state, became state-related, the costs to students and their families could go up astronomically. Our tuitions are about less than half what is charged by the state-relateds right now. So that we don't see where that would be beneficial. Again, that was just one of 5 recommendations that were included of ways we could go. I think there's a real commitment on the part of many people in the legislature and certainly from the governor's office to strengthen the system, not to tear it apart. And I think that's we're hopeful that's where the momentum is. That's where we'll go. But certainly the challenges that we're facing as a system, our universities, the enrollment issues, the funding issues, they're facing virtually every college and university in Pennsylvania. If you look at enrollment across Pennsylvania, it is down consistently across all sectors. State systems, community colleges, state-relateds, the private institutions. That's a matter of Pennsylvania's demographics. There are far fewer high school graduates today than there were 10 years ago. Those numbers continue to decline. If there are fewer students, it's only natural that it's going to affect college enrollment. And a report just came out last week. Nationwide, college enrollment is down. Particularly in the Northeast. So, the challenges we're facing are not unique, but what we are trying to do is come up with maybe some unique solutions to those challenges.
IUP President Michael Driscoll was with us just a day or so ago here in the studio talking about the start of the academic year there and the challenges that are students at IUP are facing. Cheney has its own issues. Every school has areas of emphasis as they begin a new academic year. The university presidents really do set the tone for what's going to be happening on their campuses during any academic year, don't they?
Yes, they do. I mean, and the universities have a great deal of autonomy. Yes, they're part of a system, but they have a great deal of autonomy. And a strong leader like Dr. Driscoll, is very important to each of the universities. But the universities determine what academic programs they offer, and they try to mold those to match those to the needs in their regions, especially. A school like IUP, being that it's still the only university in the system that offers PhDs, other universities can offer certain types of doctorates, professional doctorates, if you will. But IUP is still our only research institution. It's classified as that. And they're a little different, but all of our universities cater very much so to their regions, looking specifically what is needed, the types of programs, the mix of students, and a strong president is vital each of our universities' success.
I think it's pretty interesting as well that each of those presidents has a chance to have an impact on other schools within the system just by their input, the various committees on which they serve, and the various duties they perform in order to help other schools work together. And that relationship between all of the universities is extremely important as the state system moves forward.
Yeah, I think that's the value of a system. You can copy best practices from other institutions. You can share ideas. That's one of the things I think that has enabled us to do as well as we have, to maintain a strong fiscal standing, if you will, with all of the various bond rating agencies. Everyone, they just recently those agencies have either upgraded or changed our status from what used to be negative to stable. And I think they recognize the value of the system. We're able to share a lot of services. We're able to share a lot of ideas. So being part of a system certainly has its benefits. And at the same time, because they have the autonomy that they do in developing programming, developing their own staffing levels and such, they benefit from being unique, but also from sharing a common bond, if you will.
Yeah. Last question for Kenn Marshall, State System of Higher Education Spokesman. The system redesign, is there a next step that we're looking forward to soon, or is there a timetable established for the next step?
I think the next major issue that's going to be discussed will probably come up at the next board meeting, and there was a task group formed to look at pricing policies, to see what's the best way going forward to establish tuition. Some of the things that have been talked about is maybe having a 2-year tuition rate, allowing the universities, if they want to go to a 4-year guaranteed rate. Those are just some of the ideas that are being discussed to provide more stability for students and their families going in, so that they know what college is going to cost. That's actually something that may come up at our next Board of Governors meeting, which actually is going to be held at IUP. We're starting to the board is now going to meet each year at its October meeting on a different campus, and IUP is where we'll host those meetings in October this year, and so that's going to be obviously the first meeting with Dr. Greenstein as chancellor. I think we'll get a good idea at that meeting, where he's, what his early vision is at least, and move forward at least on the next big piece of the redesign, and that would be the pricing policy.
Absolutely. All right, Kenn, thanks so much for visiting with us. We appreciate you taking time out of what must be a very busy week for you.
Anytime. I always enjoy it.
There's Kenn Marshall, State System of Higher Education Spokesman. It's Indiana in the Morning here on WCCS.